Hello everybody, my name is Fraser Waldron, and in this video I want to pitch to you that joy and the art of play are important to increasing performance and making whatever activity you're doing more meaningful, but more specifically that you'll be more productive and you have a better chance of positive outcomes if you embed a sort of 1% joy element to anything you're doing, whether that's playing a board game, doing some work that's intense, or maybe playing sports or playing an instrument or whatever the task is. If you add an element of joy and play into it, you'll have a better time in a general sense. So example, when I coach American football, it's always high school. So I go, between 13 and 18 years old boys usually. And in that context, the emotional highs and lows of teenage boys is wild. One bad thing happens, you can have a really, like someone scores against you, you can see the body language crumple. You score, you're up on them, the body language, we're proud and maybe a bit too proud. And then, it's just a huge range of psychological experiences you can have within one, 60-minute kind of period of time during a game. And one of the things I like to talk about is that with my players is I always say, embody the ideal mindset for performance. So whatever that is, you can be a loud player, you can be a silent player, you can be whichever your favorite NFL team player is, or think of your mom, I don't know, whatever. You inhabit the identity that gets you the ideal performance. But a key part of that is you must maintain a 1% happiness or joyful or playful stance within it. So if you're a really intense football player and you want to run into someone and then smash into somebody, cool, I want that. But you also have to have just a 1% smile when you're doing it. And that essentially takes you out of the outcome focus where we got to win no matter what to I'm just performing in the moment. It's process over outcome. So essentially the joyous element of it takes you out of the narrative of having to win or thinking of a specific outcome. And now you're just in the moment, in this case, competing. But if you're playing the violin or something, maybe it's just playing. But it takes you from hardcore, serious outcome-based to process-based. And I think in that joy, in that play, you can have much better outcomes. So I'll give you an example of this tangibly. I was coaching in Vancouver a few years ago in Canada, and I was coaching a high school team. So 15 to 18-year-old boys as a Division III team. So they were a big team. There's maybe 80 players on the team. They had all were experienced players. We were the best team in the league by our ranking, let's say, and we had beaten all the teams that were ranked in our sort of top 5 bucket. So we were the predominant favorite, which is sometimes not the best because now you get the sense of oh, we've already arrived, right? So to combat that, the coach was super serious on the week of our biggest game, which would have been the quarterfinals. So the game before the championship game, we were going against a team that we had already beaten several weeks prior in the regular season. But they were the closest to us in capacity, let's say. And the week before, to combat this sort of we've beaten them once, we're just going to beat them again kind of vibes that sometimes the high school players get, the coach was super serious all week. We're going to practice twice as much, twice as hard, twice as disciplined, but no joy. So essentially over this sort of 5-day period of time, the players started to really take the game almost too seriously. Oh, we got to win or else. Is this really intense vibe? And I kind of went to the coaches and I said, hey, and I was just a position coach. I wasn't the defensive coordinator or the head coach myself where I could manage that. I said, I think we're too serious. People are not smiling at practice. We're not playing. We're really outcome focused. We're thinking about the future too much. We're not in the moment. And they're no, it's all good. So we never averted this, unfortunately. And so I thought, we'll see how it goes on game day. So on game day, we're doing our warm-ups and we're at, there's a big stadium in Vancouver where the professional teams play. And so we were playing in that stadium, which is a new environment for the high school kids. And that makes it even more intense because now you're oh, I'm in the professional context. It just is a different vibe shift. And the players, when we were warming up, normally they're kind of joking. I'm pushing them. I'm we're throwing the ball back and forth. There's a bit of banter, hey coach, what's up? This was yes, sir, no, sir. So it was we were in a military parade. Everyone's just no smiling. And I'm trying to crack jokes to kind of lighten the mood a bit because we're too intense. And I can see no one is having it, including our coaching staff, which was unfortunate. So in the game, we come out firing, but unfortunately in the first series or the first bit of the game, the other team scored, which is not uncommon. It's just bad luck that happened. They had a good play and fair enough to them. We weren't scheming wrong. They just had a good athlete who made a good play. And normally our team would bounce back from that because we'd been in lots of close games before. But because we were so intense and so outcome focused, the whole team psychologically just collapsed. You could see the body language on the other side of the field, the other team, and they're all like, chest is up, we're good. And then if you looked at our sideline, the body language was like this. People weren't looking at each other. People weren't talking to each other. There wasn't like a rally they weren't leaning into the pressure. They were like, oh no, the moment's too big. And that was pretty much because we didn't have that 1% looseness to be in the moment, to focus on process, not outcome. And essentially our team just collapsed. So we got rolled by these guys like 40-7 or something like that. Like they beat the brakes off us. And it was just psychological. And at the end of the game, everyone was just like, ugh, which is if you play your best game and you've got a bit of joy and you're focused on the process, then the outcome doesn't matter. I've lost to teams like 50-0, where the players who are on the losing team are not sad at the end of the game because they tried their best. I mean, it sucks to lose, but like they're like, when's the next game? But our team, which was really competitive and a bunch of like very experienced players, were just like crushed. Now, of course, it's the playoffs, so I get it. But it was the psychological mismanagement that really made us not able to bounce back. So when I start with teams early, or I'm the coordinator or I'm the head coach, or I've got a position to manage that, I always add that 1% kind of like crazy. So inhabit the identity that makes you perform the best, whether that's sports, school, work, whatever. Inhabit that mindset when you need that peak performance, but always keep it's my 1% rule. Keep 1% for joy, for focusing on the process, not the outcome, and have a little smile. So you can act crazy on the football field. Actually, the crazier, the better. But you got to make sure you have a little smile on your face to kind of take that edge off so you don't crack under pressure. It's like choking under pressure. And I think other philosophical angles, we'll talk about this too. I think in Eastern philosophy, like Zen, Buddhism, are also on this sort of like no attachment kind of element to it. So where you're not focused on the outcome, you just focus on the moment. Mindfulness, let's say, the modern mindfulness movement would articulate this position as well. And even in Stoicism, you're not focused on outcomes. You're focused in the moment to be good for others. In the sports context, it's to be good for the team. You're playing music, it's good for the community, whatever the case may be. But you're in the moment. You're not thinking about the outcome per se. You can't control that. You're in the moment and you're just focused with that smile or with that joy. And even like one of my favorite philosophers, Nietzsche, who, philosophizes with a hammer, breaks stuff up. One of his positions, which you could debate, I suppose, was that the final form of a good human being was like to be like the child, to have fun, enjoy. And I've found that as I got older, like out of university and into like my midlife, let's say, where I bring joy and maybe curiosity, because that doesn't mean like happy, but like just curiosity of the thing I'm doing, 100% attention on the moment, and with curiosity, I get much better outcomes. So you can apply this joy principle. Maybe curiosity is almost the better word for that, but just being in the moment. And I'll give you a more serious example. So when I worked in law enforcement, I would do investigations, which I didn't always like. I liked running around with the gun and kicking the doors in and arresting bad guys. That was my favorite part, where it's very easy to be in the moment because, if you're not in the moment, you might get shot. But I also had to do investigatory work, which I'm good at. I don't mind. But some of it was not necessarily joyful work for me that I would naturally do if I wasn't getting paid to do it. So, for example, if I had to do like a 3-4 hour interview with someone, although I found that sort of interesting academically or intellectually, it wasn't something I would want to do on a rolling basis. But the job demanded that, and I had to do a good job. And sometimes it was really serious. It'd be like a sexual assault, like a homicide potentially. If the homicide detective hadn't made it yet, maybe I'm the first one doing the interview. I did thousands of investigations into complex commercial crime, etc., crypto investigations, the whole gamut of crime typologies. And when I was in the room, sometimes I'd be like too serious, too focused on the outcome, because sometimes if you mess up, like the repercussions are big. Like maybe that bad guy doesn't go to jail. Maybe it screws up the case. Like maybe you get sued because you've done something wrong. So it's like high pressure, high outcome based stuff. Like the outcomes can be bad in the real world. So you want to make sure you're doing the right job. And so I very quickly from the beginning added this kind of 1% happiness rule, because I'd been taking this from my sports stuff and I just applied it to my work. And whenever I did that, like I might not enjoy doing the interview, let's say, because you got to do like a lot of prep. It's like it's a whole orchestra of things going on. I want to give away the operational security here, but there's a methodology to it, So, but when I would do it, I would just go, okay, if I remembered, I would go, oh, I'm inhabiting the ideal police officer mindset. I'm going to add this 1% curiosity, which again is that fun, that play, like how can I make this like enjoyable? And that way it made me focus on the process, not on the investigative outcome, which of course you want to get to, of, you know, a successful prosecution or a charge or whatever the case may be. So that was a secret weapon of mine that I would use in really intense policing contexts to make the situation more light. It took the weight off my shoulders, because instead of thinking about like, oh, I got to send this guy to jail and I got to get this guy to tell me the information or else panic, I was just like, hey, I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna be curious to see how it goes, right? Like, yeah, this is kind of fun. Like I'm playing police officer, you know what I'm saying? So the seriousness is still there, but the curiosity allows me to be in the moment. And to me, that's sort of a form of joy or that play. So I'm back in the play, I'm in the flow state, I'm in the moment, and that gives me much better results. And I was a good investigator, I think, in some part because of that skill set to inhabit that 1% of having a little smile on my face when I'm doing the interview, even though I might not be smiling in the interview, if you catch my drift. So that's it. I hope that's useful. It's been really useful for me. I see it being useful objectively with the players I coach. I've coached hundreds and hundreds of players now. And when they embody that, I see better performance on the field. I see better performance when I do it in the workplace and in the sports context. So I feel like it would translate across many other tasks, even if the tasks are boring. So hope you're having a great day. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll catch you on the next video.